All right, we are now 100 games in, got 62 left, and life is good. Life is good as a Mariners fan at the moment. 54 and 46, good odds to make the playoffs, and after a couple of difficult weeks ahead, it's going to be pretty smooth for the rest of the year. So, this team is in good position to make the postseason for the first time in 20 years. They played well over the last 10 games. And with the trade deadline approaching, which I'll talk about a little bit later, they're likely to do something to improve their short term outlook at least a little bit. So life is good. And I want people to keep that in mind as we move forward into the last third of the season here. I've seen, especially in recent days, with some of the little things that have happened with this team, like getting swept by the Astros and just not being able to get runs across the plate in the big situations that pop up over the course of a close game against a really good team like Houston is. People are getting very negative. It's like they caught that high of the 15 game win streak or 14 game win streak, and they, without that high, like in the absence of that high, they just, nothing else compares. And I kind of get that, but I think it's important to keep perspective right now. This team was dead a month ago, maybe even a little bit less than a month ago. Nobody thought anything good was going to happen with them. Everyone thought the season was pretty much in the tank. People were trying to figure out what we could do this offseason to build for 2023. People were trying to figure out which of our prospects were worth keeping and which ones should be moved. People were trying to figure out if there were any veterans on this team we could move for a little bit of value. And now here we are with an, according to BR, Baseball Reference, almost 81% to make the playoffs. So it's good. And I understand it's frustrating to know we're not as good as Houston. They've now beaten us at least 4 times in a row, including 4 times in the last week. I know it's unfortunate, but it is the reality of the situation. We're not as good as the Yankees. There are teams out there that are just better than us. And there isn't a whole lot that can be done about that right now. So let's just be happy for what we have. This is definitely a situation where the right thing to do is to be happy with what we have. And before we go into the minutia of the last 10 games, where, by the way, we still have a winning record, I want to make the point that of the teams in the MLB with a bottom 10 payroll, there are only 2 teams that are any good, us and Tampa Bay. That should give you an idea of how fortunate we are to be here. Okay, so the last 10 games, like I said, winning record, I think we went 6-4. Obviously, we couldn't break our winning streak record. Houston put a stop to that. They beat us 4 times in the last week, but it's just not something that terribly surprises me. To a certain extent, we are getting our skins on the wall against mediocre-ish teams. A couple of these teams we're beating were pretty good. Toronto was pretty good. San Diego's pretty good, but this is a team that is going to be kind of king of the little people at points. When we go up against a team like Houston or coming up soon here, the Yankees, it has the opportunity to go bad. But when we are playing the teams that aren't the cream of the crop, we're holding up extremely well right now, and it's become a well-rounded team that occasionally still has problems getting runners home. And I think that right now, well, the biggest problem with the team in its current state is the fact that they have, at least it feels like, one at bat a game where there are runners on second and third, 2 outs, and Dylan Moore's in the box, and we don't really have any recourse. Or Abraham Toro's in the box, and we have no recourse. So that, to me, is the main thing holding this team back. The pitching staff has been money. I know the bullpen got dented up a little bit in some recent games, but overall, it's not like they cost us any games, except for maybe last night with Munoz. No control in that 8th inning probably cost us the game, but not like the offense did us any favors even then. And I know that the starting pitching rotation finally had a couple of bad starts. Robbie Ray got knocked up a little bit, although he did get incredibly unlucky. Marco has had some rough starts. But overall, it's a very well-rounded team that is doing almost everything right. And once a couple of these guys get back, they have the opportunity to really put a patch on their biggest issue. If you look at their lineup, Cal Raleigh has been awesome. He is now officially a good MLB hitter. Not even like good for a catcher, not good for a 25-year-old, not good for a player who's basically playing his first full year. No, he's actually good. He's hitting for power. He's going the other way sometimes. He's doing a lot of really good things. And that's been awesome. Ty France, continues to hit the ball really well. I don't need to say anything about Julio. You guys know the dude has been awesome. And you got to remember his Ops Plus, which is 135, it would be higher if not for the first month of the year when the umpires hated him and he couldn't get anything going. So, superstar. Suarez, Crawford. Suarez and Crawford continue to play well in the field and at the plate. I know Winker's going through a bit of a cold spell, but overall he's still playing okay. There is the NL to AL transition that all players have to make that Winker, I believe, is going to continue to need to work through for probably the rest of this year. So, unfortunately, we're just going to have to live with a approximately league average hitter and league average defender. But hopefully by the end of the year, he'll be on one of his hot spells. Haggerty, it's been a real thrill seeing Haggerty add so much value to this team. He's been great at the plate. He's got great value out in the field as a utility player. Great value as a pinch runner late in games. Santana, I know Santana hasn't done much lately. I know his Ops Plus has plummeted down to below 95 after a really solid stretch, but he's a professional hitter. He can get things done. And if we need to call on him in a big spot at some point later this season, then I'm not going to feel too terribly about that. So you start talking about all these guys and you're like, we are very close to having a full allotment of players who we can give a big at-bat to and not feel bad about. The days of having to deal with a guy like Adam Frazier up at on the biggest plate appearance of the night, or Toro, or Dylan Moore. And Dylan Moore's not having a bad year, I want to say that. I do want to stress that Dylan Moore's actually playing pretty well overall, but he's still not really the guy you want up there in a big spot. So once we get Haniger back, which sounds like it's coming up in the next week or so, by the next time I make a Mariners video, he'll probably be up. Kyle Lewis, hopefully he can get to the point where he can at least play 4 to 5 times a week. We're going to have enough going on to deal with just about anything. So this problem that we keep running into, where it's a big at-bat and we have no option other than to just send out a banjo hitter like a Dylan Moore or... Well, Toro's not a banjo hitter, but he's a bad hitter. Super dead bat right now. I think he'll get sent down when the time comes. But Trammell's going to be back at some point as well, and he was actually hitting pretty well before he got hurt. So the opportunity to really stack this lineup is coming. And you're going to have the ability to make sure that those guys don't come up in those big spots. You're going to be able to field a full lineup of guys who are dangerous, except maybe you're stuck with Frazier, because Frazier is, he's a second baseman. It's either him or Haggerty or Moore, so no matter what, it's not great. And even Adam Frazier's bat is starting to warm up a little bit. So once the lineup comes together fully and we can stop leaning on guys like Dylan Moore and Adam Frazier and Toro in big spots, it's going to help a lot. I think that's the last missing piece for this team. They get on base, they get runners on, they swing the bat well. Most of these guys know how to work a pitch count. Most of these guys know how to get a pitcher to work hard. But we just need to string our hits together a little better, and not having dead spots in the lineup every few batters is going to help. Not having a bottom end of the lineup that just makes you depressed to look at it. You want to turn the channel sometimes when you see 7, 8, 9 coming up. So that's the main thing for me. Everything else is pretty good. I don't have a lot negative to say. I know Robbie Ray had that bad start, like I said. Marco has strung together a few shaky starts. but they're still playing well. Logan Gilbert looks great. George Kirby, look, we're obviously we're going to have him on a strict pitch count, and I totally get why, and I support it. Seems like we're going to be super strict with it though. So I wouldn't count on Kirby being there at the end of the year. I wouldn't count on him to go any deeper than, at best, 6 innings in any one game. We're going to have to do something about that. We don't have a number 5 starting pitcher that can replace Kirby. Bullpen, Castillo finally had a bad outing, but we got out of it. He's injured now. Hopefully he comes back and is dealing the way that he was for a couple months there. But even without him, we got a slew of guys who are playing well right now. I know Munoz messed up yesterday, but Murphy, I really like Murphy. Sewald's been pretty good overall. Swanson's been mostly dominant. Festa, I didn't see this from Festa at all. There's enough in this bullpen to where losing Castillo for a little while is not the end of the world. Even Matt Brash, and I know Matt Brash, it's going to be a while before we can really trust him, but Matt Brash has some nasty stuff and is fully capable of giving you some really good innings as a bullpen pitcher. By the way, shout out to Ryan Baruki as well. I almost forgot about him, but he's been totally effective since coming here. So the bullpen, still really good. I know it's not the best in the major leagues right now, but it's up there. And I can't say too much about him. I don't see that as a need going into this trade deadline. And by the way, Ken Giles, I know we can't count on him, but maybe he comes back. He's a good pitcher. He gave us a few good outings before he got hurt, so there's probably something there. We just need him to stay healthy. And the defense, every now and then there's an error, as there's going to be, but the defense has been great, so this team has come together. But how we could make it come together a little bit better, the trade deadline, everyone's buzzing about Juan Soto, so let me address that first. No. Obviously Soto's a great player, but it's mostly in the batter's box. Not a great defensive player, to my knowledge. Not considered to be among the best defensive players. It seems like you're going to have to give him half $500 million to make him happy. Julio, when his contract comes up, which I know is a while away, is probably going to be more. It's probably going to be another $500 million. And with an ownership group like this, an owner whose net worth is barely over $1 billion, probably not happening. You're not keeping both those guys. If Washington can't do it, then there's no way you can do it. Hopefully we'll be able to keep Julio. I think we will, because he's become so meaningful to this organization. But an ownership group like this is unlikely to give $1 billion combined to 2 superstars like that. 2 bats, 2 outfielders at that. The redundancy. I would maybe believe it a little bit more if it was like a super high-priced pitcher, but another outfielder, I don't know if I see it. Soto, if there was some way where you knew for a fact that you had an extension that you were willing to give him, that he is willing to sign, then maybe. But what I'm going to say, and what I've been saying a lot recently, is Juan Soto doesn't make this team better than the Yankees or the Astros. So why would you sell your future, your ability to build a great team for the next decade plus maybe, for a couple of years of Soto, when Soto by himself is not going to make the team the best in the AL? If I believe that Soto would make us better than the Yankees or Astros, I might be willing to do it. Go all out for a World Series for the next 2 years. If it doesn't happen, that's unfortunate, but you took the shot. And if it does happen, then it could be rough after then, but oh well, you won the World Series. But I don't see that being the case. So I'm a no on Soto unless the asking price is prospects only. I'm not giving up Kirby or Gilbert. So I'm assuming the Nats are not going to be okay with that. So I say no on Soto. Look, the biggest problem with this lineup right now is you have too many guys that are just easy outs. It's not the fact that we don't have enough superstars to me. I would much rather make our lineup balanced and effective than have 2 superstars and a bunch of garbage like what the Angels have. So Soto, I'm a no on. I'll go ahead and put that out there right now, unless you know for a fact you extend him for the rest of his life. What I have my eye on is the guy the Mariners seem to have their eye on. That is Luis Castillo, pitcher from the Reds. The Reds are terrible. The Reds already made a trade with us earlier, or excuse me, in the offseason with Suarez and Winker. And it seems like they're ready to deal Castillo. He made the All-Star game last year. He's only really had 3 full seasons. He's also had 2 half seasons, 3 half seasons, I guess you could call it. But he's generally been very effective, even over the last, ever since he became a big-time player, his first All-Star appearance in 2019. The worst he's ever done is a 3.9 ERA. Well, you can call it a 4 flat ERA, basically, which would still be tolerable. And at his best, he's much better than that. We need another starting pitcher. I know that. Kirby, we didn't let him go past 51 pitches the other day. So that's how tight of a leash he's on right now. And I get it, but we got to do something to mitigate it. Unless we're just going to kind of punt on every 5 games. Because Sheffield, I don't want to put him out there. I know that. But, yeah, this is the guy that I'm looking at right now more than anything else. It's Luis Castillo. Shane Bieber is supposedly on the menu as well. We need another starting pitcher. I'm good with pretty much everything else. If you want to trade for another decent bat, somebody who's better than Toro, maybe a backup catcher, that's fine. But it's not high on my list. What is high on my list is getting somebody like a Luis Castillo. Like I said, All-Star this year, a 2.86 ERA, and if you do that and you somehow manage to keep him for even a couple years, like you could keep him for this year and then another couple years. I don't know if they can make that happen, but you would have an incredible pitching rotation featuring 4 guys who are near or at ace level, and then you could do a 6-man rotation with Marco and Flexen. So that should be the seat of our power going forward, making a dominant pitching staff. I don't want to be like the 90s Mariners who had a lot of offense, hit a lot of home runs, but couldn't hold leads. I don't want to be like the Angels are right now, who have 2 super duper stars back-to-back in the lineup, but still can't win. So that's my take. Get me a starting pitcher and maybe a backup catcher to replace Torrens, and I'm good. Game going to start pretty soon here, actually, tonight. Another game against the Astros. I'm ready to take some abuse over the next week or 2 against these elite teams, but I think we're going to come out of it, and we're going to be ready to rock some lower level teams and get this playoff spot. See you guys later. Go Mariners.